heavy to talk about. Um, Other than talking about Juneteenth, um, I'm gonna fix this curtain here. So yesterday, June 19th, was Juneteenth, and today is actually the start of summer. It's summer solstice. Happened today here in Maryland. Anyway, here in Maryland, summer solstice started at 4:50 p.m. The day of summer solstice is the beginning, is the first day of the summer, officially the first day of the summer. Not to be confused with how a lot of people take Memorial Day weekend to be this unofficial start of summer for most people. But in this context, we're talking about the actual summer season. um, and yeah, so today, June 20th, here in Maryland, again, uh, was the first day of summer. So today's the first day of summer. Yesterday was Juneteenth. And just curious if anyone did anything for Juneteenth, whether a celebration, like cookouts, picnics, um, or maybe they took it, they had a more intellectual understanding of the holiday and maybe boned up on information going back to the antebellum era, looking at slavery and um, when they received their freedom, maybe looking at like the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 or the official um, release of the slaves in 1865, 2 years later, and the fact that, with the Juneteenth thing, that in Galveston, Texas, all of those black people then didn't realize they were freed until I believe the U.S. Army or Texas Rangers, something like that, came there and let them know that they were now freed men, and that became an a very eventful moment, and uh, it had ripples throughout that area because I think there was other people that outside of Galveston, Texas, that also were under the impression that they were still slaves. So I think it has some far-reaching implications in places like Louisiana and places like that. But in any case, if I don't get any comments, then I'll end this early. No problem. But yeah, just curious if anyone celebrated um, Juneteenth. And I'm not just talking about black people. I'm talking about anyone because it's a federal holiday, which means it's a holiday for all Americans, right? And actually, if they taught history correctly anyway, we wouldn't need separate months for the separate groups. Everyone's history would be just taught as a part of American history. But yeah, so I haven't got any comments yet except for some troll. But yeah, guys, so just interested in if anyone celebrated Juneteenth or interested in knowing more about Juneteenth or you know um, has celebrated since it's become a federal holiday. Maybe some people still don't know what it's about, what day it falls on, um, if it's important or not, what it symbolizes, all that sort of stuff. A lot of people do, some don't, because I mean, this holiday has only been around for the last 4 years, 4 or 3 years since Biden made it a federal holiday. Before then, it was unofficially a holiday within the black community. Although, to be honest, I don't remember celebrating it in any like other than like just people recognizing that it was an important moment in Black history. But before then, like I said, before it was made a federal holiday, it wasn't a big hoopla about it. Now it's a federal holiday. Some people use it to use that time to take a day off from work, especially if they work within, and have a government job. Some people do cookouts and stuff, and like I said, it's not that important to me, to be quite frank. And when I took a run yesterday, I couldn't. I live in a predominantly black suburb, which is outside of Baltimore, and I don't remember seeing any cookouts, smelling any food or anything. I was expecting to either see people having cookouts or at least smell food cooking on the grill. I didn't get any of that. Not yesterday, anyway. I think in previous years I saw people cooking out, but this year I didn't see it. Maybe because it fell on a Wednesday, so not a lot of people really did much in as a result. But yeah, I expected to see some people like cooking out or doing whatever, maybe family get-togethers. Didn't really see that yesterday, and I didn't do anything myself. I just did my normal run like I usually did. Um, Hung out. That's pretty much it. But that's why I was kind of reluctant to do this live stream on it, because, like I said, um, it's not that big of a holiday for a lot of people. And looking at my analytics, I can't really see people by race. I can see people by age and by sex. And I know the majority of people who watch are between the ages of somewhere between the ages of 20 and their early middle ages. And by and large, most are men. But I do have some women who watch, and unfortunately, I don't see the racial groupings of people. But just making an inference from the comments that I get on live streams, I assume that most are white. So most probably wouldn't care that much about Juneteenth either. So I might end this early because I don't see there being much people commenting about it on this live stream today, other than maybe a few people. And if so, again, that's fine, because like I said, I wasn't that ecstatic about it either. So, um, but um, other than that, yeah, I'm not getting any fruitful comments. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and chop it up with people if it's nothing but idiots and trolls in my comment section. So aside from that, at least we got one person. I got BSK in the comments. But yeah, so like I said, the topic, guys, is Juneteenth. Did anybody celebrate it yesterday? I was going to do a live last night, but I didn't feel like I'm not feeling like staying up late anymore doing live streams. It's a waste of time. If it's a super chat, that would be different. At least with a super chat, I'm actually getting paid to do it. But just doing these regular vertical live streams, it doesn't make sense to stay up late. Even though some of my friends who support me doing the live stream, they're often up late watching it. But for me, it's not worth it because I would like to get up early, and staying up late to do live streams doesn't make sense unless I'm, receiving like donations or support for it. So where that leaves us is, like I said, I didn't think this was a good topic for live stream, but I was um, thinking I was going to do it anyway. That's why I was going to do it last night. But only one person asked me about Juneteenth yesterday. Um, this guy's, I think his YouTube handle is CJ Johnson. I don't know whether that's real name, but on YouTube that's what he goes by. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I might think about doing that. But again, I didn't do it last night because I wasn't staying up late just to talk about something that I really honestly don't care about that much. Most people already know I'm not in the pro-black space, so it wasn't a big thing to me. And even within a pro-black space, I have not heard a lot about people celebrating yesterday. But yeah, like I said, I am curious if people wanted to know more info about that, or for the people who do already have information on Juneteenth, whether they celebrate it. Because, like I said, as far as I can see in my particular neighborhood, yesterday around this time, I didn't smell any food or see any large get-togethers like I would see on like more major holidays like July 4th or um, Memorial Day and stuff like that. So anyway, ban my first troll. So I don't expect this to be a fruitful live stream. So I'll probably give this 5 more minutes or so before I end it, and I won't be doing another one this evening because I'm already getting kind of late. It doesn't look it just because today is summer solstice and it's therefore the longest day of the year. So I don't. So yes, the sun is just starting to go down, even though it's already way past like 8:30. Like it's 9ish. Let me banish troll. Some of y'all retards. I'm not gonna answer you. I don't know why you think I am. Some of you, I'm pretty sure most of you are under the age of 30, and you can call me uncle, whatever. I don't care. Here's the thing: none of what you're saying is new. You're fucking idiots. You're retarded as shit. And when I say retarded, you're not clinically retarded. You're just below average intelligence. The problem with people, see, this is the difference. Retarded people, especially people who suffer from Down syndrome, tend to be some of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. But dumb people like trolls, like some of you on this platform, you're too stupid to know that you're stupid. It's called the Dunning Kruger effect, and it affects most of you below average intelligence and people. So you'll leave comments thinking that you're going to trick me into saying something, react to something, or remotely even care about anything you say, and you don't. I don't. So where does this leave us with a bunch of fucking idiots online who are just probably just boring people, so they have nothing else better to do than to get on these live streams and display that Dunning Kruger effect, which is that incompetent people are actually blind to the fact that they're incompetent. So it's not just about intelligence, but it definitely displays in people who are of below average intelligence, because most of them don't realize that they're of below average intelligence because of that cognitive blindness. Um, so you're fucking idiots. You're not gonna get me to say something that I don't want to say, or say something sexual. You're not gonna get me out of pocket. You're not gonna get me to go to your, spend time on your comments. And most of the time, I'm just gonna ban you. And if you want to derail my live stream on irrelevant questions, you're gonna drop the Cash App. Otherwise, again, I'm not gonna pay any attention to you. Having said that, like I said, I'm gonna give this a few more minutes to see if someone wants to jump in the chat room and actually talk about the given topic, which is Juneteenth, as far as celebrating, acknowledging it, or whatever the case may be. So, any case, yeah, I mean, again, I didn't expect this to be productive just because I know if I myself wasn't that ecstatic about the topic, it would be like a 50-50 whether other people would be as well. Um, yeah, like I'm scrolling through the chat, nothing remotely about it. BSK says Juneteenth, future of it. What you mean future of it? Like it's already established a federal holiday, so it's not going anywhere really. And I mean, as long if you're a government employee, then You're always going to be, since it's a federal holiday, you're going to be off for that day, unless you work somewhere. Like I know some friends who may not work for government, but they may be government contractors. So technically, they're still supposed to get that day off. But depending on their supervisor, they might finagle it that they might still have to work on certain federal holidays. Because I've seen a lot of people complain this week that they still had to work on Juneteenth. So, in any case, again, people asking questions that are irrelevant to the topic, I'm not going to answer them. If you want an answer to an irrelevant question to the topic, you'll drop a cash app. You will pay for my time, or you will get the fuck off of my channel. I'm not going to acknowledge any question that's irrelevant to the topic on any day that I do a live stream ever. Again, you guys are fucking idiots. It's just that most YouTubers wouldn't say it, so I will. You're fucking dumb. So, any case, yeah. So basically, yeah, I don't see any change in the status of the holiday because once it's been made, I haven't known any federal holidays to be rescinded once they've been made into federal holidays that I know of. Maybe you might, but I haven't heard of any. But not every federal holiday is treated equally though either, outside of getting a day off. Do I personally enjoy Juneteenth? It's kind of irrelevant to me. I never celebrated it. Like maybe several years ago, like it once it became like more in the I don't know, once it gained more attention like culturally, I was more aware of it, but I can't remember a time we celebrated or did anything. Maybe my family once may have cooked out once or twice on Juneteenth. That's as much as I can remember. Doing anything for the holiday. It's like I said, it's kind of redundant and unnecessary. Some people will disagree with me, of course. Some people who might be more in the pro-black spaces will definitely disagree with me on that and think that it's a very important holiday on what is symbolized. Like I said, it started from 1865 when U.S. Army or Texas Rangers, whatever it was, I can't remember exactly, and I don't have enough interest right now to look it up. But they came to Galveston, Texas, and let the black people at the time know that they were freed men, and that had reverberations throughout that whole region because there was still others as well in, I guess, nearby towns and cities whom also didn't know that they were already freed by law. So this became like the unofficial Black Independence Day or Emancipation Day. But for a long time, July 4th was more of an important holiday to Black people because during the antebellum era, they were forbidden from celebrating July the 4th. So for them, once they were freed, a lot of them started celebrating July the 4th because it symbolized that they also had their freedom as well. So July the 4th had often been like very heavily celebrated within the Black community. It wasn't until it wasn't considered woke, like maybe 10 years ago, that Black people started like kind of denigrating the celebration of July 4th amongst Black people. But historically, like free Black people had celebrated in large numbers before people acknowledged Juneteenth. So Crazy Motor named Ice Cube says, "What do you think of people like Sexy Red or Blueface using Juneteenth as an excuse to act like a fool and be racist?" When, well, here's the question though. Here's the bigger question: when is Sexy Red and Blueface not acting like fools? I've never seen them do anything that didn't set black people 10 years back every time they have appeared in the public. Like Sexy Red looks like she has like 10 different comorbid sexual infections existing within her body all at once. Like she looks like the female gremlin from Gremlins Part 2, A New Batch. Like that's what she looks like. That bitch is ugly. She's ugly, she's ghetto, ratchet. She looks dirty as shit. She looks like a monkey that escaped out the cage. She has no talent. I'm pretty sure her booty stinks. Um, yeah. I can't even. I can't even. And then Blueface looks like a fucking moron as well. Like he looks like every black person that I would try to avoid on the street. Like he looks like every black male kid in their late teens to 20s that I would avoid, like in real life. That's what he looks like. Like he looks like he's just waiting to shoot someone and catch a case. He looks like a loser. So them using Juneteenth as a platform to show how stupid and idiotic they are doesn't surprise me because every time I've seen them, they're literally always stupid and idiotic. Juneteenth is just another day for them to display it. 69 God, you get the fuck off my channel. Custody says, yeah, she ratchet. She is. And then had the nerve to, and like, if if my kid was, well, my kid wouldn't be going to a public school anyway, but if I had a kid in a public school and they had actually hired Sexy Red to come to that school, I'd be instantly pulling my kid out of that school because just from that I would know that the school's administration has bad decision making skills. To the fact they thought it was okay to let Sexy Red perform at that school, which they later rescinded when she came there fucking high. She came there high, smelling of weed, and so they rescinded the offer. So then she just kind of performed unofficially, outside of outside of the school grounds, and the kids watched. Um, yeah, but to me, it's like that was their fault. Like, whom did you think you were inviting in the first place? Like, they didn't know that she was already a very ratchet and mentally and emotionally unstable person. So yeah, if I had a kid at a school where they had invited Sexy Red or any of those other little strip hoppers, because they're not real rappers. They like they they're not doing hip hop. They're doing strip hop, like her, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, um, all those other dumb bitches. Like if I had a kid in any school that invited them to perform, I would instantly pull my kid from the school and take them to either a private school or a charter school or something. They would not be in that public school anymore. BSK said that's harsh. Hey, I'm just being honest. One thing you guys will know from these live streams is that I'm kind of brutally honest about things. Mercanoid Peanut Butter says, "What do you think of Whoa Vicky? She sure as hell is not black. And what I find funny is she dresses all ratchet, but I've seen her dress normally and she is attractive without the makeup and crap on. Who's Vicky? I don't know who that is." Custody says, "Yeah, for real, my daughter's in private school for some reason. I don't blame you. Don't blame you at all. American public school system now is trash. I would not want my kid raised. They like they don't know by the time they leave, by the time they get into middle school, they don't know set theory. They don't know naive set theory, which is like the foundation of arithmetic. They don't know that, but they can give you all the letters of the LGBTQ. rainbow, but they can't do simple. But they don't know, by the time they get to middle school, they don't know pre-algebra. They don't know. They don't understand set theory. They don't know important historical moments. They don't know basic science. Like, but oh yeah, they know the LGBTQ letters. They know all those alphabets. They know all the new rip. They know all the drill rap songs. Nah, that won't be my kid. I'll let everyone else's kid be stupid. Cat 007 says, I've been celebrating Juneteenth since childhood. Yeah, it wasn't something I was even aware of until college, maybe after college. But I was not even aware of it until then. Crazy Muda says, Sexy Red playing in a school is almost as bad as that Texas school that had a 30-year-old stripper come in for a pep rally and gave kids lap dances. Wow. That should that should have been like that should have been a charge. That should be like a sexual offense or something. Frosty says, so bad Sexy Red's influencing these kids. Yeah. BSK says, wannabe thoughts. So he says, strip hop. That's the perfect name for it. Yeah. And I can't take credit for that term. It came from this guy on the podcast Math Hoffa. He's like a battle, like a like a battle rapper who has gotten big within the New York rap scene, and now he has his own podcast, just the way like Nori has his own podcast, and that other dude that has his own podcast, the one hit wonder rapper, I forgot his name, the one pump 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 it up, that guy, I can't remember his name, but that one hit wonder, I think he has the biggest hip hop podcast. And then also Cameron and Mace have their own podcast, but it's more geared towards sports. Um, but yeah, Math Hoffa is the most enjoyable one out of all of them for me. I sort of like how it goes down, like they're like in a barbershop and they just discuss things, because that was typically how for a lot of people who don't know the black community, that was typically like a place where black men could freely like share their thoughts. It was like places like the barbershop, which is why they made a whole movie about that, even though it was pretty corny. But in any case, they had the right idea. Historically, black men would go to the barbershop and be able to freely talk politics and sports and all sorts of random stuff without worrying about what black women were thinking about what they thought. So that's is the format for the Math Hoffa podcast. And one of the guys who's on there, one of his friends who's on the show, was I guess used to be or still is somewhat of a hip hop journalist, and he coined the term, as far as I know. Frosty says, bad for sure. My son's school is good. Thankfully, I live in a good area. Yeah, so some public schools can be better or worse depending on the area. Because one thing is that with public schools, the quality of the school is going to depend on the neighborhood, because usually with the public schools, they're funded by the property taxes of that neighborhood. So if you live in a ghetto where most people don't even own their own homes, those schools tend to suck. These neighborhood zone schools. Um, Crazy Muda says, Whoa, Vicky is an influencer who claims to be black and ratchet for the gram and stuff, but has been caught on video when she's isn't in her persona. She's just a white girl who's not remotely hood. See, you watch way more stuff online than I do. I won't watch stuff that falls outside of my interest, which is like martial arts, comic books, stuff like that. What else? Yeah, so yeah, I watch a lot of martial arts YouTubers, stuff about comic books and superheroes. I follow stuff from Facebook, um, some of the red pill content stuff. So if it's not red pill content, I'm not following. I'm definitely not. I definitely don't follow many women on YouTube or any other place because I'm not watching anyone just because they look good. Eye candy doesn't really work on me. Um, if I wanted to see someone look sexy, I'll just watch porn. I'm not gonna watch a bitch talk about nothing just because she looks good. So, and I don't care what race she is. Barbara Furtick says hi. What's up, Barbara? Crazy Muda says, "Whoa, Vicky, enough." Funnily, is a devout Christian Southern church girl outside of her character on her socials. Yeah. A lot of people aren't who they claim to be on um, online. I mean, a lot of content creators, a lot of them put on a persona. With me, pretty much what you see is what you get. Um, I'm pretty much just giving you whom I am. Like, if you ask any of my friends who sometimes leave comments, or the guy who inspired me to do the channel, like, he knows I'm just pretty much just being me when I make these videos. You don't see me playing another sort of person. So, but a lot of content creators do create personas around themselves to make it either more entertaining, or just because when you're online, you can craft a new self concept of yourself, even if it's delusional. So, Frosty says, I keep with what he's being taught throughout his school year. I'm on it because I've seen how wild and frankly communist this school system has gotten. But the funny thing is, the public school system is, socialist in itself because, you know, there wasn't a public school system throughout most of human history. Usually the people who received education were either like the nobles or the clergy, right? So, and if it weren't noble or clergy, it might be wealthy merchants. So those were probably the three classes of people whose children had received education were, the clergy, the noblemen, and wealthy merchants. That was pretty much it. So it was a good idea to educate the masses, especially when it can benefit society as a as a net good, right? But the quality has waivers depending on where you are and when you are. So Custody says, yeah, the barbershop was where I went to learn, laugh, and share, not just a cut. Yeah, I mean, we've had some. I've never gotten into like any serious discussions at the barbershop, but it was usually like somewhere where you could like definitely like have a lot of inappropriate jokes that, that you probably wouldn't have at home or elsewhere. It's a little different now because I rarely get my hair cut, and when I do, I usually go to the Dominican spot, and the Dominican spot is lit because it'd be a bunch of hot Dominican women there because it's both like usually a barbershop and a beauty shop, and the beauty shop is on the other half. Um, but sometimes they usually have the women working working the desk when you come to the barbershop, and they're like hot, and you can tell like they came straight from overseas. Like these aren't the Americanized, watered down Dominicans. Like these are the like straight from overseas Dominicans. So I really don't have too much conversations with them, but I like, they'll put on like stuff like boxing and baseball, something that you see a lot of Dominicans do as athletes get into like boxing and baseball, stuff like that. So it's definitely cool, but it's not like the old school barbershops I used to go to like, back in the 90s. I'm Rain Pill said was good game. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks. Frosty says like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Kyra says, how do we know just a contrarian isn't a contrarian just a contrarian? So that's exactly why in my description I actually let you know why I use the descriptive moniker just a contrarian, because it's actually just a play on words because I'm not a contrarian. It's actually just something that people dismissively say about me because I don't agree with them on something. Like if, especially when it comes to like religion and politics, like if everyone in the room is saying X and you say, well, actually, I don't agree with that, then they'll be like, oh, you're just a contrarian. But actual contrarians do that on purpose. Like actual contrarians intentionally will take the opposite of whatever the majority viewpoint is on any given subject just because it makes them sound like the smartest person in the room just to be the one to disagree with what everyone else thinks. So that's why people would think I'm just being a contrarian when I'm really not, because probably 8 times out of 10, I'm probably going to agree with what most people think on any given topic. But when I don't, I stand my square. um, Frosty says you're very articulate and bring thought to what you say. LOL reminds me of Elon Musk. I like listening. Appreciate it. Um, Mercanoid Peanut Butter says, "What did you think of the Kendrick Juneteenth show?" I literally just heard about this 15 minutes. No, I mean, about before I started the stream, I just heard something about it because the YouTube channel Comedy Hype mentioned something about um, Kendrick Lamar having like some sort of hilarious response to something dealing with his performance, his Juneteenth performance. So I haven't watched that video yet, and I already saw someone popped up a bunch of memes on Facebook, and I didn't know what it was about, but I just saw it, but the memes were really funny, so I posted a lot of them in my Facebook story on my personal page, not on my Just A Contrarian page. So I have two different Facebook pages, my personal page and then my one connected to this channel. So on my personal page, I I re I shared those memes on my stories um, because it was funny because it was just like people just roasting Drake. Coco Jambo says beautiful smile, thank you. Um, but guys, I'm just gonna talk about Juneteenth today. So like, if you have any political questions or comments or stuff like that, I'll answer it if you drop a cash app because I'm just talking about Juneteenth today or right now. Um, and I'm not trying to be funny. It's just a way that I figured out I can keep the conversation focused. But I think I missed another comment. Hold up. Oh, no, I don't think I did. But yeah, But guys, I am actually kind of surprised I didn't see any cookouts or smell anything going off yesterday. And the only thing I could chalk it up to was that it was a Wednesday. Because I think if Juneteenth fell on a weekend this year, Halloween fell on the weekend, me and Ghetto Boys a trick or treat. And I'm just no, but if Juneteenth had fell on the weekend, I'm pretty sure I would have saw some cookouts and stuff going on. But I think because it fell on a Wednesday and not everyone has a government job, I didn't witness any like get-togethers or cookouts. Um, which normally would happen, like especially on weekends, and it being the start of the summer today. So thank Wakantanka for 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 summer solstice today, the Great Spirit. Custody says Juneteenth got completely ignored where I'm at. Where do you live? Like I said, I live in a predominantly black suburban neighborhood, so you would expect it here, if nowhere else. Because like I said, people have the resources since it's the suburbs, and it's predominantly black. And also, a lot of people here do work for government because I would say one of the biggest employers within the Baltimore region is Social Security, because Social Security is located here in Baltimore. That's why it's like one of those places that would be targeted for like a possible terrorist attack. Actually, it's two places because they used to be combined under. Formerly, both of them were under the Department of U.S. Health and Human Services under one building you had Social Security Administration, then you had the Medicare and Medicaid services. But now those are two different locations, and there's multiple locations for the Social Security. So right down the street from me is U.S. Medicare and Medicaid services, like within like 10 minutes walking distance. And then farther down the street, past the Social Security, past Security Square Mall, which is probably why it's named Security Square Mall, is the Social Security building. It's the main headquarters here in Baltimore County. But then there's another one in downtown Baltimore. So my mother worked for them for like 20 plus years or so. Even when we moved, like when we lived in like Illinois and Pennsylvania, she wasn't working there. But when we moved back here, and then when we were living in Delaware, she was still working at Social Security, and she would just commute back to Baltimore, and I would commute with her and go back to school here in Baltimore. But then when she relocated permanently to Delaware, that was when I moved to the DC suburbs with my father, which is another place where you're going to find a lot of government workers, because a lot of the people in Montgomery County, Fairfax County, um, and other places in North Virginia, as well as DC Metro itself, most of them are government employees. Mercanoid Peanut Butter says, check out the performance. Kendrick united all the gangs and sections of LA and peace on stage at the end and made me shed a tear. He used hate of Drake to unite people for a Juneteenth celebration. I've heard that. So that was one of the things that I heard. So after the stream, I'm probably gonna check out the comedy hype video and see about that. So that's cool. I mean, as far as I knew, I don't think the gangs in LA have been banging like that for a while, like they used to, which is a good thing. That's why you don't really hear LA when you hear about like the uptick in crime. Like crime nationally has gone down, which is something that needs to be admitted because too many people are in their feelings about it. But yeah, statistics show that overall violent crime has gone down to almost like 1960s levels. But within some of these major cities, we still see a higher uptick of crime, because it's like if crime spiked so much and then came down, that it doesn't seem like an improvement, even though it is, because like they had spiked so much within the last like 6 or so years that we were at like 1990s level violent crime, but then it has dipped a bit, and a lot of leaders have been quick to jump on that fact and say that people are just looking at feelings over facts. Yes and no, because at the end of the day, if I'm still scared to go to the ATM at 1 a.m., I can know the stats, but is that going to make me feel safer? It's not. That people, when you're, politicians and bureaucrats still have to take in mind how people feel about things, regardless of what the stats say. Like, if people are still scared to go into downtown Baltimore, if people are still scared to go into North Philadelphia, if people are still scared to go into Southeast DC, if people are still scared to go for a bite to eat late at night in Newark, New Jersey, like their feelings on it matters. Ditto with Chicago and Detroit, St. Louis, Milwaukee. So Frosty says, I wish Juneteenth was the celebration of the ending of slavery and not what it is. Well, I mean, that is what it is supposed to be, the ending of slavery. But I've also heard, complaints that people were ratchet in how they celebrated, because some people were just throwing like parties and stuff like that. That, like, in this area, I haven't seen it, but I've heard people, more in the conservative, and I'm sure, complain that within where they live, it has been like a lot of ratchet celebrations. I haven't seen that here. Like I said, I haven't seen any celebrations. And I'll take no celebrations over ratchet celebrations, because often here, since fireworks are legal, people, by the time it's June, people just start popping off fireworks. And I hate that because we also have sometimes gunshots going off in this area too. And we all know that in the hood, like on July the 4th and on um, New Year's, people in the ghetto will shoot guns instead of fireworks. So I'm leery about that. Custody says, yeah, good point. I'm at a barbecue this weekend, so it'll probably be celebrated then. So I'm guessing that's probably what's going to happen. I think maybe there might be more cookouts this weekend because just because, it fell on a Wednesday, that's not a good day to have a like barbecue or cookout. Because even if you do have a day off, you would still have to, unless you had that, unless you did it that previous weekend, you would still have to go to the store and buy, get your steaks, get get your dogs, get your burgers, all that good stuff, and cook all that good stuff. So probably people will do it on the weekend. But like I said, you get Juneteenth and the beginning of summer back to back, which is kind of cool. But it just sucks that it happened on Wednesday and Thursday instead of like Saturday and Sunday, which would have been perfect. Sarah says, "Hey brother, what's the topic tonight?" Hey Sarah. So the topic is just Juneteenth. If anyone celebrated yesterday, and if so, what did they do? Because I've been telling folks that from what happened here where I live yesterday, I saw no celebrations. There were no cookouts or barbecues, no big get-togethers. Usually, when there's like a big get-together and celebration, Sarah, like when I go out for a run, it's usually the streets are crowded because everyone has like parked all along the residential streets. So it's actually harder for me to run on like big holidays unless I do it early in the morning. Frosty says, "LOL, Baltimore will forever be tried will be tied to Silence of the Lambs in my mind." I haven't watched it in so long. I forgot that happened in Baltimore, or was it just in Maryland? Because I honestly haven't watched it in so long. I've watched I think I've watched the sequels more than I watched the original Silence of the Lambs, like all the sequels that came out afterwards. Father Ted Crilly says he wants to link up with someone in April. I don't think he means me because I'm not living in LA. This wasn't a relevant question, but since I already brought up the topic, I'm gonna allow it. So Blade Lover, Night Null 60 says, "Do you think guns in the hands of law-abiding citizens will lower crime in larger cities?" Um, it's not a magic bullet sort of situation. When it comes to like problems in when it comes to like social behavioral problems, they are they are a multifactorial problem, which requires a multifactorial solution. Gun, violent crime in these larger cities is has different factors. One is the poverty, obviously. Um, Two is you know how the justice system often doesn't want to may not may need harsher laws for gun offenders. That might be an issue. Three is that a lot of these guns, especially in blue cities, actually are getting access to all these firearms that come from states with more lax gun control laws, which is why gun control advocates try to use this as an excuse to make harsher laws. But making harsher gun control laws in states that in places that are already like blue cities or blue states isn't going to help because they already have the most strict gun enforcement laws, but the flow of the firearms are coming from the states with the more lax gun control laws. Um, and also, we know criminals don't care about the laws because that's why they're criminals. making it easier for law-abiding citizens to have guns would be part of a solution, because obviously, like in the days of old, and when I'm talking about the days of old, I'm talking about like, say, like medieval Europe or feudal Japan. If everyone walked around with a sword, you're not going to be so quick to pull your sword on another person, because they can pull their sword on you too. So so obviously, if everyone's packing, there's going to be more mutual respect amongst, in you know amongst random individuals. So yeah, that's part of the solution. However, there's also then another factor is also mental health. Let's be honest, within the black community, there's a lot of unchecked mental health issues, a lot of unchecked mental health, and these people shouldn't have access to guns. One of the gun control laws I'm for, and which I think even the NRA was for back in the 90s, was, once one, having a universal background check. That's number one. And two, a psychological evaluation, because that's what they do in the Philippines. You have to pass a psychological evaluation before you can legally own a firearm. A lot of these people in the inner cities have mental health problems, and I'm not even joking. Back in the day, I thought that was a dubious idea, but it's real. Um, Overwhelming amount of people have unchecked mental health issues in the inner city, and they shouldn't have access to guns, even if they are a law-abiding citizen. So that's another issue. And then there's also the question of access to what sorts of guns. Should, semi-automatic pistols, um, you know, assault rifles, shotguns. Can it be like tactical? Can it be like tactical semi-automatic shotguns, or just the single shot, rifles? Like, so then you get into the question: what sort of access do they have? Should it be unequivocal access to all sorts of firearms, or just to certain kinds that would be better for like home defense or personal carry? I don't have an answer to those questions. I'm not sure anyone does, but yeah, I would be for, at least as part of the solution, making it easier for law-abiding citizens to carry, to have concealed carry. Um, in Maryland, they tried to make it hard. The idiot Governor Wes Moore wanted to restrict where people could have their concealed carry, and I think that got struck down, because it was like, how dare someone who has armed private security with him 24/7, whenever he steps out of his home, and even around his home, tell people, law-abiding people, that, hey, if you go if you have to stop in the hood to get gas, you're just shit out of luck, because we're not going to allow you to have a gun, even though these certain sort of places are places that are likely to get stuck up by robbers. But then also, again, even those folks who are law-abiding citizens, maybe they're not mentally acute enough to be responsible to have a weapon. Like I said, a lot of these people in the inner city, and I don't want to just pick on the inner city, but it is true that mental health isn't taken seriously within the black community, and a lot of those people therefore shouldn't have access to weapons. And this also applies to other communities as well. Um, if you come from a culture or community or neighborhood where people don't take mental health seriously, then maybe one of the measures for gun control should be that you should have to pass a psychological evaluation. But yeah, I would be definitely for people who can, pass a background check and pass a psychological evaluation to have access to concealed carry, maybe even constitutional carry. Sarah says, okay, good topic. I'm in deep South Georgia. Got a call from a neighbor that was furious that the post office was closed. I said, what is the holiday? He said Juneteenth. Yeah, because it's a federal holiday by Jim Crow Joe. The irony that this man that has support white supremacists throughout his political career decided to give a federal holiday for Juneteenth. I love irony. Sarah says, Now he threw a fit. No one here heard of it before, and it's not their fault. The problem with federal holidays sometimes is used as a get around instead of being a time where people get educated about a historical moment in America's past. It's instead it just becomes another day to have a day off from work and have a good furniture or car sale. Come down to the Juneteenth Toyota sale. We're going crazy out here. Frosty said, not trying to be mean. Sarah says, this blew my mind, but I'm used to it now. He says, I'm an American and I am black. So after I looked it all up, I was shocked that no one here knew what it was. Thoughts on that? So yeah, like I said, it should be. It's a shame that it falls on a day where most people are out of school for the summer, so no one really gets educated about it. The only people who already knew about it really was the black community, and maybe like some really like woke liberals, white liberals. But other than that, yeah, a lot of people don't know about it. It's not really their fault since it's not something that has always been communicated in history. Like I said, if American history was taught correctly, there wouldn't need to be a Black History Month because it would just be a part of American history. That's one of those moments in American history that should be taught that, hey, after 1865, when the Civil War ended and slaves were freed, there was a bunch of them that didn't even know about it till many months later, because until the army actually reached their city in Galveston, Texas, and said, hey, you guys are freedmen now. And they say, "Oh, really? We're free? All right, peace, deuces." So, yeah, that should be something that's like kind of mentioned when it given when in American history when they're talking about slavery and the whole antebellum time. That should be kind of mentioned as one of those factoids. Like, hey, there was actually a bunch of people down south that didn't know they were free yet. it that that could literally be a clip within a paragraph or less. So Frosty said, sorry I brought up political stuff. No, you're good. I was just saying I wanted to keep it on topic. Um, Dr. Naka said the solution is education and opportunity. Brick Square says PTSS by Dr. Joy DeGroy. Is it Dr. Joy DeGroy or someone else? And by the way, like, I don't know if you knew this, Brick Squared, or others do, who some people know from checking them out on platforms. So I have a background in psychology, and I can tell you PTSS, or for those who don't know, that stands for post-traumatic slave syndrome. Not a real mental health illness. It's not. It's sort of debunked along the lines of people who have genetic memory and stuff like that. There's no genetic memory. There's no post-traumatic slave syndrome. You don't pass on the memories of or trauma of slavery through generations. That's not how it works as far as human behavior or mental processes. You can't like your ancestors can't pass on a mental health condition which embodies the trauma that they went through. If that were the case, everybody should have it. Everyone of Slavic ancestry should be going through it, because that's literally where the term slave came from the Slavs of medieval Europe. Um, this, not to mention that even within like modern history, like in the early mid 19th century, there was even a a pan-Slavic movement. So for everyone who talks about like pan-Africanism or pan-Asianism and all these other pan-isms, that all started in Europe. So it's funny that a lot of ethnic groups jump onto these pan-ism movements when all of that actually started in Europe. So the irony that they're trying to start something to strengthen their cultural and ethnic bonds by rejecting what is European, by something that was a movement that started within Europe, is another big irony to me as well. But yeah, within the pan-Slavic movement, you don't have anyone talking about post-traumatic Slav syndrome or whatever, because or syndrome, if they want to call them serfs, because it's not a real thing, nor is genetic memory, because that's not that's not how mental illness works. That's not how that's not how memory works. And I can understand that people will perpetuate certain racist practices throughout society as time goes along. That's a different scenario. But no one inherits like trauma from their ancestors, nor memories from their ancestors. That just doesn't happen. With all due respect. Sarah says, just blows my mind that the rest of America knows this holiday, but the Deep South is not on board with it. Just got me thinking. So, depending on where you live, Sarah, they might not want that to be something that they celebrate, you know, for obvious cultural reasons or political reasons. Because, if you live somewhere where they're still freely like waving the the rebellion, the rebel flag, I should say, they may not be that biggest advocates of celebrating Juneteenth. And like I said, some people, some people, even though it's a federal holiday, still don't take it seriously. Excuse me. Get some water. Blade Lever Night in all 60 says, "Wow, finally an educated person that can talk about Juneteenth and other issues without bashing another race or playing a victim card. You truly are a refreshing experience. I appreciate it. Thank you." And like I said, whatever way people feel about the holiday and the history behind it, I want to be respectful. So, and like I said, since the beginning of when I started my YouTube, I said, even if I get monetized and I do sponsored things where I have to sponsor stuff that I don't really believe in, like, I don't know, Blue Chew or something like that. I don't need a Blue Chew. But I'll definitely do a commercial on or ad on Blue Chew, which are like the sexual supplements for men or whatever. But anyway, even if I do stuff like that, there's two things I'll never deceive people about on my channel, and that's anything dealing with like like intellectual stuff, particularly science and philosophy, and anything to do with like martial arts. I'll never be misleading on those sorts of things. So anything intellectual and anything dealing with martial arts, I'll never be misleading on those things. So I'll try to be as accurate as possible, to the point that I'm pedantic about it. Um, Sarah says, now down here, literally all of this town hates the word African American. Why? I feel horrible because I thought I was being correct saying it, but they are mad. So, okay. So here's the deal with that, Sarah. And again, I can't speak for all black people. I can only speak for myself and the people who think and feel the same way that I do. A lot of us don't like that term anymore. For one, we think it's like a PC, politically correct term for people who don't know how to address black people. Most of us just refer to being called black. It's not it's not a disrespectful term whatsoever. It just sounds very PC. It sounds cool. Like, just like I know a lot of Latinos do not want to be called Latinx or Hispanic. They either rather be called Latino or from the country of their origin. So they was like, no, I'm Honduran, I'm Nicaraguan, I'm Salvadoran, I'm Mexican, I'm Puerto Rican, yada yada yada, that sort of thing. Um, Same thing with indigenous people and American Indians. For the most part, a lot of American Indians don't like being referred to as Native Americans. They refer to either being referred to as American Indian. They think even though even though American Indian is a misnomer, and they know that, they prefer the term, like they felt like they earned it at this point. So they've either referred to being called American Indian or Indigenous, or just by their federally recognized tribe. And they usually prefer the term that they use for themselves, not the term that the people they went to war with called them. Like the people who are called the Iroquois, they don't like the term. They prefer being called the Haudenosaunee. The people who are referred to as the Sioux, they don't like being referred to as the Sioux. They prefer being called the Lakota and then the Nakota or the Dakota. Those are the three main bands of the, I guess, of the Lakota people of the great, you know, prairies of the Midwest. Um, the same thing with a lot of these other groups. So getting back to your relevant question, like black people. So most black people refer to just being called black because that's what we see as ourselves as. Negro was a really good term as well up until like the 60s, but which is just Spanish for black, but it came out of, it's once the black power movement became more powerful in the 70s and the late 60s, more people started preferring being called Afro American or African American, but it feels it feels a little stilted and PC. So most people just started liking to be called black, which is like basically the same as Negro, but just saying black instead of saying Negro in Spanish. Also, another reason why we don't like it is for the whole reason of this movement within the black community now called ADOS or ADOS, sometimes called FBA, which stands for American Descendants of Slavery, and FBA, Foundational Black Americans. I refer to myself as such as well. The FBA was created by this pro-black influencer named Tariq Nasheed. So he created the FBA, which is basically the exact same thing as ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery, which is to point to black people who've lived in America since the beginning of the founding of this country, which is to separate us from different groups who aren't us. One, it separates us from the recent African migrants that's come here in the 20th and 21st century who don't share our culture and history. That's number one. Also, that also refers to black people who come from Latin America and the Caribbean. Again, they don't share our culture and history of Americans who've been here prior to 1860, who came here, brought here as slaves. Some may be free, but by and large, mostly slaves, and earned their freedom, have fought in every American war from the Revolutionary War till today. I mean, we literally have a memorial up of one of the first black people who died in the Revolutionary War, Crispus Attucks. And I believe even black people fought even in the French and Indian Wars prior to the Revolutionary War when we were still a British, colony. But as far as all the American wars, we fought in all of them, and proudly so. And even gained an international reputation. Like they knew about the Buffalo Soldiers over in the Philippines. So, in any case, that's one of the reasons so those are two of the reasons rather that we prefer black over African American. One, it's less stilted and more salient with black people. That's it. Just like a lot of white people, just white people. Instead of, like, I don't know, white people who like being called Caucasian. It sounds very stilted and sometimes used as an insult, like, oh, they're Caucasian. Like, I don't know any white people like that refer being called Caucasian. Not to mention, Caucasian can refer to people who aren't even white. Like, it refers to like people who are also of Indian and India. Some people who are of Indian and Central Asian descent. So white sounds better. So same thing with black. It sounds better because you're referring to specifically black Americans who've been here prior to 1860. Also, there's also the issue that there are Africans who aren't white. I mean, who aren't black. So Elon Musk would be like, technically Elon Musk is an African American because he's from Africa, right? And there's a bunch of folks who are Indian and of Chinese descent that live in Africa and who have came here to the U.S. And technically they would be considered African American. But when you think African American, the that's not the mental prototype of what you consider African American. You consider African American someone of Black African ancestry. So Black is just better than African American. You know, for most Black people, I can't speak for all of us, but like I said, speaking for myself and for people who think like me, most of us just prefer the term Black. Sorry if that was a very long spiel. Sarah says, offended at this title and this holiday. I'm just so stunned, you know. um, mm, banning trolls. Let me see if anything is relevant. Again, guys, if you're asking questions that don't deal with the topic is Juneteenth. Have you celebrated yesterday? If you did, what did you do? Or what do you think about Juneteenth? Or do you even know what Juneteenth is about? That's the topic. We're not talking politics, we're not talking war. If you want an irrelevant question asked, you will drop something in the Cash App and I will address your question. Otherwise, we're not going to give it any attention. Sarah says, okay, guys, that makes sense. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. I remember this is actually like, and like this is an ongoing debate within the Black community too, Sarah. So you shouldn't at all be confused by it because I remember when in college I used to lead like a Black male, um, I don't know what you call it, like a support. I don't know if you call it like a support group or whatever it was called. And one of the guys who led the discussion that day was saying, he said, do you guys consider yourselves Black or you consider yourselves African? And at that time I was all into my little pro-Black stance. I was very much on the left in college. You know, I was a progressive, I was pro-Black. I won't say I was feminist, but I was not against feminism. And in any case, so when the guy was asking us, you know, do you guys consider yourselves Black African? And I was like, well, yeah, African. He was like, yeah. Now I'll be like, definitely like, no, no, I'm Black. So I would completely disagree with myself back that 24 years ago. The irony of a guy who doesn't even speak English as his first language trying to troll someone. And he didn't even get the meme right. The whole meme is English or Spanish. He said English or English. Like, don't try to make a joke about don't try to make a linguistic joke about being gay and you don't even speak the language. Doesn't work. I mean, the meme is mad lame anyway. It's mad lame. But at least if you're gonna try to do the meme correct, you should at least know enough English to say it correctly. Like, how you gonna be fresh off the boat trying to make an English joke and you can't even get the English correct? Yeah, I'm brutal, guys. I don't care. Sarah says down here, terms that I thought were racist are common. I was shocked, but it's a term of love here. It blows my mind. Yeah, sometimes things can differ based on the community. Like the Black community is not a heterogeneous. I mean, excuse me, it's not a homogenous group. So what may seem acceptable for some group of Black folks may be completely unacceptable for some. So, like I said, that's why I say I can't speak for all of us. I can only speak for those who think like me. No, it's not a we playing in the background. HQQRI. I'm playing some Zen music in the background. So for those who don't know, for the last few weeks, when I do my live streams, I like to play like either some ambient music or lo-fi in the background because I find it very soothing and calming. So that's what you hear in the background is Zen music. Sound it says technically sound worship temple Japanese Zen music helps with meditation, deep sleep, and so forth. Sarah says, just all colors trying to live and bond together. Nothing I was taught in Chicago. Chuchi says, hi from Philippines. What's up? What's up, Chuchi? Since you're new to the chat, Chuchi, I will allow you to ask a question. But bear in mind, today's topic is about an American holiday called Juneteenth. But go ahead and ask if you want. Sarah says, oh, in the racist comments, it goes with everyone. Everyone is the same and just trying to make a living. It's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, everyone falls prey to tribalism. Racism and all the other sorts of isms basically boil down to what is a basic fact of human nature, which is tribalism. We all do it, regardless of race, regardless of background. Tribalism is a fact of human nature. And specifically in psychology, we refer to that as the in group bias. Like everyone feels affinity and commonality with the people within the in group, but those who fall outside of the in group are seen as less than or something to be feared or hated or seen as less than for whatever reasons, right? That's called the in group bias, which is just another way of expressing tribalism. That's a state of human nature, and it doesn't go away regardless of who's in power. So, classic game is says ongoing debate of people not united. If you're referring to the black community, yes and no. I mean, we're such a large group that we shouldn't expect homogeneity amongst the community. I wouldn't like it because there's a lot of things that people in the black community agree upon that I don't. Like, for instance, by and large, black people are highly religious, especially Christian, especially of Christian faith, and I'm not. I'm not religious. Two, many of them say that you should only date within your race. I'm completely against that. My wife is Filipina, and that's something like some of these things. I don't believe in race policing. Basically, like within the black community, especially within the pro-black spaces, a lot of people want to race police, and I don't think we should race police. White people being the ethnic majority, we expect that to be a heterogeneous group. And as such, they don't race police each other because there's no one way of looking at things for them. And I think that's a strength within that community. And it should be a strength within ours too. We shouldn't expect everyone to hold the same beliefs and practices. I mean, within the smaller groups, that can be a strength. But as the group and the community expand and become bigger, that becomes a weakness, not a strength. So Bonnie says, hello all. What's up, Bonnie? Blade Lever says, as a white American, what would you recommend I say to any black Americans who feel I should not celebrate Juneteenth? Good question. So again, I can only speak. Bear in mind, Blade Lever. Again, I can only speak for myself. I can't even speak for some of my friends because some of my friends are more pro-black than I am. But for people who think like me, I would say, how dare they? Like the whole point of it being a federal holiday is so this is something. It's because it's not just something for black people. It's for all. It's for all Americans. It's something to. It's an epochal. Excuse me. I'm trying to say the word correctly. It's an epochal moment in American history. So everyone who's an American should be able to celebrate it. It's not like, how do you make something a federal holiday and say only black people should be able to celebrate it? That's incoherent. um, it you know it if they want to, again, if they want to be race police and say, oh, this is only something that black people can celebrate, then they should also expect people to not take that holiday seriously if only they can celebrate it. You can't have it both ways. You can't expect this to be a federal holiday for everyone to take advantage and then tell people that only people who are directly involved in those events should be able to celebrate it. That it's incoherent. So, I'm sorry if you've met black people who told you that you shouldn't be able to take part in Juneteenth, because celebrating freedom is is one of our American values. So for someone to say that because you're not of the right color to celebrate the freedom of these other people of another color is incoherent. We celebrate freedom as Americans. It's part of our heritage. It's part of our values. And I would love for everyone to celebrate it. Although, again, I'm not a big Juneteenth buff by any means. I'm more into like July the 4th. But for those who want to celebrate it, go right on ahead. Have a barbecue blade lover, a cookout. Hope I'm invited. um, but if people tell you, if people want to like gate the holiday, just ignore them because not everyone thinks like them. Classic Gaming says, "Be green is the best color." Depends. Kyra says, "Do you have any favorite historians or philosophers who happen to be black?" I don't want to say favorite black historians or philosophers just because this kind of sounds weird putting them in their own category. Historians. So I don't, to be completely frank, I don't know too many academic historians. At least those who I would consider like actual historians, not just people who are like amateur historians. Like there's a lot of amateur historians out there, but as far as academic historians, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know any who are black, to be quite honest. If you can actually point some out to me, I'll definitely look it up. Oh well, no, actually that's not true. I guess the people who wrote my history of African book, I think one was named J.A. White or something like that. But again, I don't know much about the career of the writers of my African history books, because I took a course on African history in college as a as an elective. Got an A. But as far as philosophers, no. There was, first of all, there's not a lot of black philosophers for the first thing, and there's only two that I know currently. One is Cornel West. If people didn't know, his actual PhD is in philosophy, but he's more in continental philosophy. And for those who've heard me rant about the differences between analytic and continental philosophy, know that I don't really care much for continental philosophy. However, he was taught by one of the best folks when it comes to continental philosophy, because he's a guy who kind of straddles both worlds. He's in the analytic philosophy world, but he has a deep background in continental philosophy. The differences between that, I know you're going to ask, or someone is going to ask. Analytic philosophy is the philosophy, especially in English speaking countries, that is more along the lines of conceptual and linguistic analysis, that has a deep that's deeply embedded with formal logic, and sees itself as continuous with science. That's analytic philosophy. Continental philosophy, on the other hand, is like more, I want to be fair to continental philosophy, so I won't say anything biased. So it's more entrenched in like with history and social and political movements, and finds itself more continuous with like literary criticism. Um, those are the differences, but they're both aspects of Western philosophy. So you'll probably find more Black philosophers in that vein. But the other Black philosopher I know was someone who was a professor at my school when I first started. A guy named Corey Washington. He was actually a analytic philosopher and a cognitive scientist who did some work in in neurocognitive science. And I was hoping to actually take a course with him, but he must have only been an adjunct professor or just never got his tenure, or maybe left to do other things. But I never got to take a course with him because even another professor in my neuroscience courses actually recommended that I talk with him and see if I wanted to possibly make him my faculty advisor if I decided to go on to graduate school within like cognitive science, because there was a program at my college at the time that had a cognitive science program where you could do both philosophy of mind and cognitive neuroscience. But unfortunately, he didn't stay at the school for me to ever like take a course or inquire with him about interest in his research to become a faculty for him to be my my graduate advisor. Because usually if whatever professor becomes like your graduate faculty advisor or whatever, usually you're doing whatever research they're doing. So those are the only two Black philosophers I'm familiar with. Those Dr. Cornel West, who's currently running for president. If people don't know, he's still running, but he's now running as an independent. So he's kind of lost a lot of steam, but he's still running. And then there's Dr. Corey Washington, who was a professor at my alma mater at University of Maryland, but I never got to. I think I've met him, but I never got to chance to speak with him or take any coursework with him. Those are the only two. But in any regards, neither of them are my favorite philosophers. My favorite philosophers are all like stuffy old white men. Being my favorite philosophers are, and I've mentioned this in another live stream when I talked just about philosophy. Plato, excuse me, yeah, my favorite philosophers are Plato, because literally all of Western philosophy is a footnote to Plato's thoughts. So Plato, Rene Descartes, who's the father of modern philosophy, David Hume, who's a Scottish philosopher and one of the leading people in the European Enlightenment at the time, as well as then later Immanuel Kant, the German idealist, and he kind of tried to take on stuff that Descartes and Hume discussed. Then no, I'm sorry, those aren't my favorites. I'm thinking of the top philosophers. So my top, not the greatest, my top philosophers, like I said, they're all white old men. Plato, Ludwig Wittgenstein, Willard Van Orman Quine, who else? Well, those are probably my three favorites, but they're all like stuffy old white men. They've all passed away, unfortunately. So sorry for the long answer. Sorry if I sound like I'm rambling as well. I never thought of it when you asked me who would be my favorite Black historians or philosophers. It also kind of makes me regret that I didn't take a course on Afro-Caribbean philosophy. I was really interested in it, but it didn't fit my semester when they offered it. So Bonnie says to me, I asked the topic of discussion, which is Juneteenth. Bonnie says, I went to a Juneteenth event with friends, had fun, danced, had some beer, and enjoyed time with friends. That's cool. See, at least you got to do something. I didn't do anything yesterday. I'm thinking a lot of people are going to celebrate during the weekend just because Juneteenth fell on a Wednesday, which was inconvenient for a lot of people. J.A.C says, good morning. What's up, J.A.C? Custody says, sounds awesome, buddy. Glad you had a great time. Yeah, she had more fun than most of us. Sarah says, Southern Baptist is on every corner down here. Huh. Okay. We went to a Baptist church when I used to live in Illinois, but I was too young to remember what sort of Baptist church. I just know it was a Black Baptist church. I don't know if it was Southern or whatever, because there's so many different Baptist sub denominations. So I wouldn't even be able to tell you. OBQ Kenobi says, who is saying only Black people can celebrate it? Oh, so you gotta scroll up the chat, Kenobi, where it's a white guy in the chat room named Blade Lover. He said what should his response be to Black people who tell him only Black people can celebrate Juneteenth? And I was like, that's just incoherent. Like, you don't make a federal holiday and then say only we can celebrate it. That doesn't make sense. I was like, the whole point of celebrating freedom is that an important point in American history that should be celebrated by all, because freedom for one lists everyone. Like, you know, the cliche or adage that um us, a rising tide lifts all boats. So yeah, that was the only he was the only person who mentioned that he was saying. I don't know if someone actually told him that, or he's worried that someone might tell him, if he wants to celebrate Juneteenth that he can't. But I would say if there are such people, to tell them mind their business, because everyone should be free to celebrate it, because that's crazy. Custody says I'm mixed race. I get hate and love from both sides. What if you don't mind me asking, what racial backgrounds? Bonnie says I'm white. Went with my friends who are Black. I had no problems. Talked and danced with a lot of people. That's cool. I'm pretty sure. Let's be honest. You guys know I'm savage, so I'm just gonna say it. I'm pretty sure a bunch of brothers was looking like, who brought the snow bunny? It's like, all right. So ain't nobody bad at that. And Logan says Jesus loves you. Cool, I guess. Obi says federal holidays are supposed to be enjoyed by all because it observes and highlights crucial cultural and historical moments in American history. Yeah, exactly what I said. Well, you stated it better. Kyra says, yeah, the only Black historian I know of is W.E.B. Du Bois, and kind of Frederick Douglass through his letters. Yeah, so when you say historians, I took it that you mean like academic historians, not like amateur historians. Because like I said, there's a lot of like amateur historians, but I only consider someone a philosopher or historian if they are actually professionally trained as such. I don't actually know what W.B. Du Bois' academic background was. He might be an academic historian. I'm not sure. And of course, Douglas was self-taught. Obi says, I think that some organizations chose to not recognize this particular federal holiday, but recognize others. It's not a good look. Yeah, I mentioned that too before you came on. I was mentioning that even though it's a federal holiday, some places still may have not chosen to do it. The lady above, Sarah, said she didn't even really know about the holiday because it's not like she lives in a southern community where they didn't even acknowledge the holiday at all. So, and I was saying, more than likely, if you don't live somewhere where there's a lot of government employees, it's probably not going to even be really mentioned. Custody says Ludwig Lichtenstein. That's he said, why are you making me have flashbacks of my dissertation, man? Who's Lichtenstein? No, Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein. He's one of my favorite philosophers, and he fits this month. It's Pride Month. Ludwig Wittgenstein was a gay man, he was like both. It's weird. He was both like deeply religious and atheist at the same time, and because of that, he had conflicting feelings on his sexual orientation. Um, but he's a very interesting character. Like I said, he's one of the most important people in analytic philosophy. Some people overrate him and say he's the most important philosopher in analytic philosophy. Some say, well, let's not exaggerate it. He would definitely be in the top 10, and he's one of those people who's respected both in the analytic tradition and in the continental tradition. Custody says my dad is Jamaican and my mom is Irish. I got them blue eyes and that right and curly hair. Pretty Ricky is what they used to call him. That's stop. I'm joking. Gamer News says Jesus is the best philosopher. Well, I'm actually going to do a live stream on it. I'm not going to address it here, but I'm actually going to address that most religious figures were not good philosophers. But that's for another live stream. I'm not going to tackle that here. I want to just stick on Juneteenth, but that's actually going to be the subject of a future live stream, probably this week. I was going to do it earlier this week, but I wanted to kind of diversify topics, like my wife suggested, but I'm not going to get away from philosophy. I'm just going to like do different things within philosophy instead of just saying philosophy, let's go. I'm gonna pick up like specific topics within philosophy and address it, and have you guys engage with me with it. But that's going to be a topic soon, is whether religious figures should be considered philosophers. Custody says autocorrect got me. I typed it right, but can't edit the comment. Oh, no problem. So you did mean Wittgenstein. Steve says, by any chance doing it? Nope, almost got me. He earned a ban. So yeah, he almost got me, guys. Because I saw a regular name. J.A.C says, does Cornel West resonate with today's young voters? He did, but I think, let's be honest, I think the DNC made sure that he suffered. Like when people are talking about him having child support issues and being an absentee father and stuff like that, I definitely think those were people working within the DNC that smeared his name, because originally when he came out, he was running under the Democratic Party, and of course we already know that they did not want any challenges to Biden. So I'm pretty sure, knowing how electoral politics works here in America, when they leaked that stuff last year trying to hurt his campaign, that came from the DNC. It didn't come from the Republicans, because he wasn't a threat to them as he was a threat to Biden. So, after he saw that they weren't going to allow him to have any debates or share any, basically have any sort of backing by the DNC, because they had already decided a priori that Biden is the candidate because he's up for re-election and there will be no other discussion about it, he was stifled, and so was RFK Jr. So then Cornel West tried to run under the Reform Party, and he has some issues with, because the Reform Party the Reform Party itself has some issues with their organization, I'll say. But again, the DNC sees him as a threat because they know that a lot of black people will want to vote for Cornel West. One, he's a black man, he's an educated black man, and he's a very liked person within the left, within the political left. He's very well liked within the political left. So they saw him as a threat. So then, because of the problems within the Reform Party itself, then he went to the Green Party. Then I don't know if he voluntarily left the Green Party or because they wanted to run the same candidate they did last time. This woman who's a a really nutty person. I forgot her name, but the the Green Party candidate is a nut job. So I don't know if he was pushed out because of her or because he voluntarily left, but he left the Green Party. Now he's running as an independent candidate, and he would resonate with today's young voters. I don't agree with a lot of stuff in his I don't to be honest, I don't agree with a lot of his policies, but a lot of his policies do resonate with young voters. Like a lot of young voters are on the whole side of free Palestine and stuff like that. And that was part of Cornel West's platform. So he would definitely resonate with a lot of young voters who the DNC are scared would vote for him and not Biden. That's why you don't even hear him mentioned in the popular mass media anymore, because it would to have him mentioned in popular mass media could possibly take away votes from Biden, because he runs his current platform and his policies are more geared towards what young people on the left would want. So that's all I can say about that, I guess. Sarah says hitting a rack, good topping discussion, brother. See you next time. Thanks, Sarah. J.A.C says RFK or Cornell for president. So I don't want to get too far ahead of us. I want to get back to Juneteenth. But yeah, whoever people vote for. Kyra says there's lots of history between my country, Ireland, and the Caribbean countries and slaves, like the population of Montserrat being descended from Irish, from indentured servitude and Africans. Sorry, guys, I need to take a sip. So, yeah, I would say so. Like, I don't know how individual Caribbean countries handle their own emancipation moments. Um, but being that a lot of these Caribbean countries are predominantly black, I'm guessing that it doesn't have the it doesn't have the controversy it does here. Because here, blacks are just 12% of the general population, but in most of these Caribbean countries, they are the ethnic majority. And Irish and black, that's what gets you a young guys. What's that R&B singer from from? No, I'm sorry. Is she from Ireland or Scotland? I'm sorry. I don't want to offend anyone of Irish descent. I think she's actually Scottish. She's black and from the UK, but I can't remember whether she's Scottish or Irish. But I love her music. Dang, now I'm gonna have to look it up. But she's definitely like, if I was still like dating like black women, she's definitely like one of the ones I would like. What's her name? Ellen? No, that's not her name. Kara says, yeah, and what's cool is that the Jamaican accent is pretty similar to Irish accent, so maybe there was mixing of African accents and Irish accents along the way. I don't know. I do know that the Jamaicans speak. I actually did this for a linguistics class for my English phonology class. I did Jamaican English, and it it comes from one of the dialects brought over from the British Isles. I don't remember it being Irish per se, but it was definitely one of the dialects came over from the British Isles that they incorporated into Jamaican English, as well as some of the loan words there came from like uh, people of West African descent and the some of the native people, because Jamaica is actually like a sort of like a weird pronunciation of the people who lived, the native people who lived in Jamaica. I think they would have pronounced it more like Yamakin or something like along that lines. Dag, I can't. Yeah, I can't find that lady's name, and it's gonna hit me as soon as I get off of here because she's on my Spotify. But she's a a very pretty light skinned woman. She has some famous R&B songs. She did some collaborations with a lot of famous R&B singers. Can't remember her name though. But maybe she's half Irish. I just can't remember if she's Scottish or Irish. But I know she's not English. Nope, can't find it. Oh well. Um, Custody says I still laugh when people meet my parents. My mom says bacon. My dad says beer can. He said it doesn't translate well to text. Sorry, I can get it like the so like so all right, and like so in like linguistics when you're writing something, what you do to show that it's like a pronunciation and not the spelling is that you put it the brackets, the slanting brackets. That's how you do that. That means when you put like a word or some like a word or phrase or something like that within those the slanting brackets, that you're telling people that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, not like how it's supposed to be spelled. So like if someone's pronouncing water a certain way, because we know that along the East Coast there's like a bunch of different ways people pronounce water or water or water or water. So like if someone pronounces it water, you put in the slanting brackets WORTER and maybe put like a dot between war and ter to show that that's the pronunciation of water for them, which is water. So that's how you do it when you texting something or writing a pronunciation down. You put in like in the slanting brackets. MA says, "What up?" What's up, MA? Bonnie says, "Are there any figures of note to celebrate on Juneteenth? Figures who partook in the event? I've been trying to find historical documents for my friend who teaches in private school. Not that I'm aware of, unless you're talking about I guess one person. I guess the guy who actually came to the town. And I can't. I can look that up for you. Because that was like the one person they did give a name for. Give me a second. And I hope you guys are liking the Zen music in the background. Yeah, so Major General Gordon Granger. Now I'll just read this snippet from Google. This taken from Axios.com. So on June 19th, 1865, Union Major General Gordon Granger ordered the final enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation in Galveston, Texas. Soon after, his General Order Number 3 circulated in newspapers and through word of mouth to freed slaves across Texas. So that's one of the people, I guess. Major General Gordon Granger. Yeah, so he's the only one I remember there actually being a name to for that for that event. Carter says also there's possible etymological history between the old you dig it used by black singers during the last century and an Irish verb tuig, which means to understand. Hmm. Dark Knight says you have quite a few gray hairs. Why? Because your mother gives me long dome. It gets anyway. Cash Bandit says, "Hey, are you the actor that played in Police Academy?" No, that would be the guy that fucked your mother up the ass. Don't no point in you even answering him, Custody. He knows damn well I'm not that person. That was a movie that was filmed over 40 years ago. I think the first Police Academy came out what 1984? No, I I think maybe 1984 was the first one because I was still little when the second one came out because my father tried to bribe me to go see Police Academy 2 when I wanted to go see the Care Bears movie when I was a kid. And he said if I went to go see Police Academy 2, um, that he would buy me a glowworm. This is 80s stuff, 80s toys. So I was like, no, I was tempted. I was like, well, I do want a glowworm. I still want a glowworm. Matter of fact, let me get that on eBay. But um, I couldn't be tempted. I still wanted to see the Care Bear movie. That was the introduction of the Care Bear cousins. So I was. Don't blame me. I was a little kid. Bonnie says thank you. That's a start. I'm going to Dallas in a month to do research on historical documents. No problem. Yeah, somehow I definitely my that's supposed to be on my eBay wish list anyway. I don't know what happened to my glowworm because I want to buy one. There it is. But guys, I'll probably wrap this up within like 10 minutes or so, unless the conversation's still getting pretty engaging. Custody says, "How are you going to hit us up with Care Bears and glowworms in one sentence like that? 80s memories unlocked." Because I didn't think many people are in my age range that would even understand all of that. Because when, like I said, Police Academy 2 first assignment came out the same time as the Care Bears movie, and at the time, just remember when glowworms were out, and I wanted to see the Care Bear movie. So my father said, "Well, if you go see Police Academy, I'll buy you a glowworm." And I was like, "No, I want to go see Care Bear." So he was probably he well, he's not the best father, but at least he was at that time because at least he at least he still took me to go see Care Bears, and I'm pretty sure as a grown man he didn't want to sit through a Care Bears movie. I could imagine myself, and I'm older than he was when he took me to go see that because he probably was he even 30 then? He's at best 30. Sitting there taking me to see this movie. But I mean, he could get away with it because he's with a little kid. But I could not. I if I had a little son that wanted to drag me to see some goofy cartoon, not an anime. I would watch an anime with my kid all day long. But if he took me to go see something stupid like I want to go see My Little Ponies, I would be like, I'm a let's let's wait for your mom to take you. And I would definitely try to bribe him too. I'd be like, let's go see Deadpool and Wolverine, but don't tell your mom. And I think that key, and I'm going on a tangent, but I think every cool dad, that's the key phrase that every cool dad has ever said. Don't tell your mom. So yeah, um, definitely some 80s nostalgia there. Custody says my sister had a glowworm. All I got was a chia pet. I wanted one of those too, but when it first came out, it was so boring because it was literally nowadays like it's like 100 different sorts of chia pets you can get now. Like you got like the Yoda chia pet. You got all, but back then it was only one. It was only one design that came for the chia pet. It was some little lame looking sheep or whatever. Like it was only one design back in the 80s for the chia pet. It was like a sheep or something, right? It was kind of corny, but at the same time I wanted one. But what I wanted more was a bonsai plant. My wife actually got us a bonsai plant, but I think she said it died last year. Because somebody said, "Yeah, you knew you were having a great dad when your dad said, don't tell mom." No, My Little Pony wasn't made into a. Actually, was it? I think it might have been. No, I was just saying as an example. I said if I was an adult today, I mean, I am an adult today. I'm saying if I was a father today with a kid who was my age when I was a kid, when my father took me to see Care Bears, and he asked me, "Can we go see something that was kind of not very manly of a cartoon like My Little Pony?" I wouldn't have been as good as my father. I would have said, "I'm gonna let your mom take you to that." Now I'd be like, "Hey, let's go see Deadpool and Wolverine, but don't tell your mom." I'm like, "Don't tell your mom I'm buy you a Happy Meal." You know what I'm saying? I'll probably get a Happy Meal too. I'm not gonna lie. But I think there was a My Little Pony movie, but I don't know if it was made for TV or there was one that came out in the theaters. I can't remember. And I'm surprised that no studios have really made a Juneteenth movie yet. You would think like, well, not BET. BET sucks. They never do anything positive for Black people. That's a whole different subject. But anyway, I'm surprised there haven't been any studios either. Probably not in the big the big screen movies, but maybe for like either Netflix or Amazon Prime, since Amazon bought MGM Studios, so now you see Amazon MGM Prime Studios. I'm surprised neither one of them have done like a movie about Juneteenth. I definitely wouldn't watch it if it came on Tubi because Tubi is like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to streaming platforms. But honestly, I just Potter. The only movie I didn't mind was Lord of the Rings. You talking about the first one, the Sorcerer's Stone, or one of the other Harry Potter movies? I never saw any of them in the theaters, but I watched every single one as soon as they came on cable. Like I was low key a Harry Potter fan, and I even read the first book. And when I read the book after I had seen the first four movie. No, after I think all the movie I seen all the movies before reading the book, or at least most of the movies. And I was like, whoa! I was like, oh, the movie actually sticks pretty closely to the book because that's not usually the case. Lord of the Rings was just awesome. The only parts they took out kind of were good. They took them out because they would have distracted too much from the movie. Like the whole part of Tom Bombadil would have distracted from the movie, and the whole part of the Prince of Emerald, that would have been a distraction in the last book, Return of the King, because how do you fit the whole fact that there's the Prince of Emerald who would have been like a sort of like a contender for the throne of whatchamacallit then. But yeah, Lord of the Rings was just awesome. Custody says, yeah, that's a good point. How has no studio tried to cash in on the Juneteenth movie yet? Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's a business decision. If they think they can make money off that movie, Why wouldn't they? And I'm pretty sure just you're gonna have a built like any sort of like black historic event has a built-in audience to it, right? I mean, one of the things is that, to be honest, a lot of black American actors don't like doing slave movies anymore. That's why anytime you see a slave movie come out, most of these actors come from overseas. I don't know if people have noticed that, but the last few slave movies that come out rarely have a lot of black American actors in it because most of them are beyond it. They don't want to do they don't want to do the slave struggle movies. But if someone made it, I'm pretty sure there would be people who would be willing to watch it. It would be a built-in audience for it. So, and especially on streaming platforms where it's less of a on streaming platforms it's less of a financial gamble than putting something out on a silver screen. Bonnie says the whole series of movies and books. Oh, Hope says hi. What's up, Hope? Yeah, because I mean, you even had a movie about the John Brown raids, right? That Nathan was the guy Nathan Parker put out or something. Um, yeah, there was even a movie about that or whatever. Custody says, I think that's because Chappelle made jokes about Roots. No actor wants to play that role anymore. No, it wasn't. It didn't have anything with him. Just speaking, and again, I'm gonna project my own thoughts into this. A lot of us just think slave don't want to play slave roles anymore. It's like beneath us. It's like I don't want to do that. It's just like they don't want to play. Just like a lot of them don't want to play drug dealers. A lot don't want to play slaves anymore either. It's like beneath them. They don't want to play servants, slaves, or drug dealers. Like that's like bottom of the barrel for like a black actor nowadays. So often the case, what was like 12 years a slave, like most of those actors weren't even American. They were, of British or African descent. The only one I remember with like actual like black Americans in it was the Quentin Tarantino film because that was just awesome with Jamie Foxx and what's her name? That was an awesome movie. I really can't see your profile picture, Hope, but I don't. It looks like one of those rappers that died. Again, for the folks who don't know, I don't. I'm an older generation. I'm Gen X. I don't care about younger rappers today. I don't think they're talented. Don't like the persona. Don't like how they glorify being junkies. That's lame to me. My generation glorified being drug dealers, which isn't good either, by the way. But I'd rather be the dealer than the junkie. Like, if you're the junkie, you're like sucking dick for coke, so you're not cool. So I'm sorry, but that again, that's just a generational bias. But sorry, my rappers were cooler than your generation. My generation had bigs. Your generation had littles. Back to Juneteenth. Well, oh, that's what it is. I see. They all have stupid names. They all sound alike, look alike, can't rap. Like they have no lyrical skills. Like they were never made it into the unsigned hype of Source magazine back in the day. All the best rappers back in like the 90s were like the unsigned hype and Source Awards or like the Vibe magazine. I mean not Source Awards, the Source magazine, sorry. And or they when Vibe became big, Vibe would have like the freshmen of that the freshman rappers of that year or whatever. But I'm kind of I'm kind of beyond the hip hop discussion nowadays. Hip hop discussion is very lowbrow. Because so he said I just earned a youth coin. JB's is unsigned rappers from the 90s are on crack now. again, guys, we're talking about Juneteenth. I'm not talking about rap, and for the most part, that's not true. Most of the rappers from the earlier years either have left entertainment industry entirely, or the ones who are in the industry now. These are your current A&Rs. These are your current producers. These are the people running the labels. That's what they do now. Most of them are behind the scenes nowadays. People like MC Search, who was for Third Base. He's now a multi-million dollar producer. He's the one who made Nas big. He and MC Search isn't even black. He was a white Jewish kid. There was a rapper, along with another white rapper who formed the group Third Base, along with their black DJ. He looked out for Nas when he got him his publishing and his other stuff, along with his first album, for Nas's first commercial album. He made him he made that man a millionaire on his first album. So this is why it's important for the old heads in the hip hop industry to mentor the younger hip hop artists. But let's be honest, a lot of the record companies kind of fostered that division between the older generations within the music business and the younger ones, because if the younger ones can't be mentored by the older ones, they're still going to be easily be manipulated by these record companies. But the old heads who've been through it all, like literally been through it all, because they're the ones who actually put hip hop on the map, where now it's an international industry, where before this was just something within New York City and the New York tri-state area in general, has become an international music industry. And the fact that there's this huge division between these younger folks and the older folks is partly artificial. So that's all I'll say about that. Back to Juneteenth. Bonnie says, I never knew about Juneteenth until a couple of years ago. I was surprised it was never taught up north. Again, it's never really outside of the black community. It was never a big thing unless you were like an American history buff. And like I said, it was Biden didn't made it a federal holiday back in 2021, I believe. So I can't blame people who didn't receive a proper American history education, but I knew about it because, like I said, I was a history nerd. Like when I was in high school, the teacher actually let me write up bonus point questions for our exams. So I was doing that. And I took a senior year, when I was done with history, I took a Black American history course as an elective, because it wasn't mandatory, especially senior year. I was already done with all my history credits. But and then I even took American history again in college, because originally I wanted to be a history major. Then I realized how dry that sort of research was, so I I changed my major, which most freshmen change their major probably 2 or 3 times as well. That's pretty common. So, you know, it was 2021 when he made it a holiday. So that was only 3 years ago. And for a lot of America, that was probably the first time they ever heard of Juneteenth, was when Biden announced it as a holiday 3 years ago. Because so he says, yeah, it seemed to become more known during COVID for some reason. Um, Probably just a difference in focus when how people are teaching history. You gotta remember, depending on where you went to school, and especially public school, some of these some of these textbooks, some people are still using 50-year-old history textbooks. And I'm not even exaggerating. Some of these lesser funded schools have uh, wildly out of date textbooks that they still teach students with. Yeah, he announced it as because he, as the president, um, made it a federal holiday. So yeah, but yeah, like I said, so I can't blame most people coming from Middle America not knowing about it, because unless your American history class taught it, you probably wouldn't have known it yourself unless you looked it up yourself, being a history, like, because you were interested in American history. And like I said, it could have took it would take just a paragraph to mention it. If that, it could be probably mentioned within two sentences. But when you're teaching the Civil War, which everyone has to learn in American history, and you talking about the Emancipation Proclamation and that slaves were freed as a result of the Civil War when it ended in 1865, and the Union defeated the Confederacy. It would just take a little blurb later to say, and in Galveston, Texas, several months later, um, the slaves of Texas were, um, didn't realize they were free until the Major General such and such Gordon came and announced it to them. And because of him telling that in Galveston, Texas, everyone and all the black people in the South then realized they were free. I mean, in the Texas, sorry, in Texas, realized they were free. That could take a paragraph or less to do, but it depends on the quality of the education you're receiving, and that's one of the problems of public education in general. It's hit or miss. Custody says, I'm off at the shower. Stay awesome all. Thanks, Custody. I'm getting off pretty soon too, guys. Unless there was any other questions or comments. Nothing to do with rappers. I've already had the discussion. I literally had a whole live stream where I said, people, what's your favorite rappers? And no one came in to talk about the chat. The funny thing is, I'll do topics on things that people suggest, and when I do it, those people don't even show up for the conversation. So I'm not going to go ahead and then change the current topic that I'm heading just to reflect what people's current interests are when they're just coming randomly into a live stream. It doesn't work that way. On my channel, if you want to redirect the conversation, you're going to have to drop a Cash App. Otherwise, if I'm talking about Juneteenth, we're not going to talk about rappers. We're not going to talk about religious leaders. We're not going to talk about anything that's irrelevant to the topic. I'm quite adamant about that. So guys, I'm going to go. I'm going to give it a few in case someone else had like questions or comments about Juneteenth. Like I said, I think maybe people are going to have more cookouts and barbecues this weekend, just because Juneteenth had the misfortune of falling on a Wednesday. Really, no one's going to cook out and barbecue on a Wednesday, and they got to go back to work on Thursday, so they can't throw back beers and just be a glutton on Wednesday when they got to get up early to go back to work on a Thursday morning. Thanks, Bonnie. I appreciate it. So, and guys, you had any other questions? Tomorrow I'm gonna have another focused topic. And remember, guys, every week I do a day where we can talk about anything random. Like, I have a Ask Me Anything day every week. Yep, that's thanks for dropping my my Cash App link, guy. Custody. But and when did you study? We'll discuss that in another live stream. But I'm curious, when why were you studying Wittgenstein? I took a whole class on him, by the way. So definitely one of my favorite philosophers. But I'd be definitely interested in you telling me when you studied him, but not today. I'm gonna do a separate stream on that. Trust me. So in any case, guys, that is my Cash App. If you guys are interested, $ Page Enterprises LLC. And that's my Cash App link. So I don't want you thinking that's something weird or fugazi or anything like that. That's my Cash App handle. If anyone wants to contribute, it helps because I can, buy some fruit snacks or a Happy Meal, buy my wife something. She comes first. The snacks don't come first. She comes first. But you know, if it's just a few dollars, I'll just buy some fruit snacks. She doesn't even like candy like me. Technically, fruit snacks aren't candy, but um, she loves cheesecake, particularly what is it? I forgot what flavor, but it's a particular flavor of cheesecake out that she likes that I sometimes get her. But I love fruit snacks, um, stuff like that. So any contribution will be welcome, and it helps me do what I do. Like I said, I'm not monetized yet. When I'm monetized, I'm gonna do super chat live streams. That way you can donate directly within the chat room. And you guys can also buy me a coffee. There's an app for that within my description. The link for that app is in my description as well. So you can buy me a coffee. And I literally do drink coffee every day, at least twice a day, at least twice. Usually much more. I've only not been drinking it as much right now because my kitchen is still being remodeled. So don't want to keep going in and bothering the technician as he's doing his thing. But otherwise, guys, enjoyed the conversation. Was I was kind of fearful that no one was going to actually be interested in the topic, um, but luckily you guys were, so I appreciate it. Um, and once this is uploaded, again, you can still leave questions and comments in the comment section once I upload the video because I always do answer that. Um, Not everyone likes the answer that they get, but I do answer the comments that I get after I've uploaded the video. Bonnie says I just tried Japanese cheesecake. It was fabulous. I don't even know what Japanese cheesecake would be. Sound like it would have like matcha in it or something like that. Because they like matcha and a whole bunch of desserts, and I do not like matcha. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, Matcha, but I don't like matcha. And I'm thinking anything Japanese related type dessert like matcha because they put that in a lot of desserts and pastries. They even have matcha Kit Kats. But yeah, she's probably gonna be mad if she watches and sees that I can't remember the type of cheesecake that she likes. So with that, I'm gonna go, guys. Appreciate it. Leave a comment if you weren't able to ask me to comment during the stream, or if you just thought of it after the stream ended, which happens. So I'll give it a few seconds just in case someone's typing something. I always do that. I'll give it a few um, seconds in case someone was in the midst of typing something right before I ended it. And I hope people enjoyed the Zen meditation music in the background. Um, a few of the times I did these streams, I got copyright. It wasn't copyright strikes, but they definitely showed there was copyrighted musical content that I was using. Luckily, it wasn't a strike against me, but I had to be more mindful of that. So I'm gonna keep playing music, but I probably won't play it as prominently as I did those few times where the copyright issue came up because I don't want to I don't want to upset YouTube right before they offer me the YouTube partnership program. But that's it, guys. Take care. If you didn't celebrate Juneteenth yesterday, maybe you'll celebrate it this weekend. Have a cookout or barbecue. If you do, keep some for your boy. All right, take care.